Hello, my name is Rugare Gomo. I'm a high performance coach. Welcome to your business summit, where we have experts ready to help you navigate your life and business during these unprecedented times. And today it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce you to EJ Wise. Hi, EJ.
Hi, Rugare. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you so much for saying yes to being part of this business summit. Now, EJ is the principal of Wise Law, and she's a cyber security expert. So it's fantastic that we get to have you here because there are very few people like you in the world. You're internationally recognized cybersecurity expert, and you help people, with their audit regarding their security. You help people with their insurance. You help them with their claims. You help them protecting themselves. So you are a really important person, particularly as many of us business owners are moving digitally or elevating our digital presence. So can you just tell us a little bit about why you started Wise Law and what you love about it?
Thank you, Rugare. So I guess I'd reached about 2 decades in my military career as a lawyer, which wasn't the first place I worked. I'd also worked in the Commonwealth government for a few years after getting my law degree. But I'd very much adopted the military concept, and really for the 21 years, I'd specialised in international humanitarian law, which I'm still very passionate about. But, I'd reached a point where I wanted to settle in one space after having more or less been a nomad through my adult life and actually through my childhood, because my father was in the army as well. So I wanted to more or less be in one spot, and that's incompatible with military life. So I retired in January 2018, spent a year with Victorian government, and it wasn't that wasn't my passion. And so I looked over my career and went, okay, of all the things that I learned in the military, I think this cyber thing, this really has some potential to translate into something I can do. I can still provide service, because at the end of the day, I think all of us believe we are or desire to provide a service. There's a limited few that probably enter law actually thinking they're going to make a lot of money, but most of us, I think, want to provide a service. And for me, it was this unique combination of having cybersecurity skills that I'd learnt both in my science degree before my law degree, but then learning a tactical way of using them in the Royal Australian Air Force, and thinking, okay, this could really help people. This could really help my colleagues, and this can help contractors, and this can help government.
Fantastic. I just want to say thank you so much for your service, as well as being in the Royal Air Force. That's amazing. And then using that skill set as well in the business community. So, you're not a woman to be messed with. And I love that.
You know what they say about short people.
What did they say? ...
Short person syndrome. It's a thing.
And you have all the power. Yes.
There was certainly an element of unbridled joy to being able to be paid to work outside in uniform, out in a beautiful piece of countryside, holding a powerful semi-automatic gas-powered rifle that fires 5.56 millimeter rounds, 300 meters downrange, and knowing I was still a first-class shot. I'm not going to lie. And you're allowed to cut that if that's going to offend anyone, but that was the nature of being a combatant in the military as a legal officer. Wow. And I found it very cathartic, maybe because of my height.
And you heard it first from EJ Wise. Now, to expand on that, can you just tell us more about what is cybersecurity? Many people talk about it. Oh, cybersecurity, protect yourself. But what actually is that?
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good question, because just the term can put people off. And I actually used to shudder at the term cyber, but it's a term that's been around for a very long time, and it really emerged from science fiction. And I want cyber to be a broad term in your mind, not technology is kind of anything. You're wearing a pair of glasses for your eyesight. That's technology. But in cyber, we're starting to talk about a connected sense of technology. So there are going to be bits and bytes. There's going to be electronics. So the device that we're using right now to speak through, I'm using a laptop. Maybe you are as well, or you're using a standalone computer. It's your tablets. It's telephones. It's really electronic communication. And in terms of security, once upon a time, we practiced law with paper and pen, and we locked those papers up every night into some kind of filing cabinet, or we locked the office. We secured our information. And really, I just see my job as a translator for both laws and for cyber, to say this is not complicated. There are really simple steps you can take in the cybersecurity realm, which are equivalent to having locked your filing cabinet and locked your door and popped the alarm on for a physical firm. I'm now asking you to put your mind to that, to this very device that you might be watching this on right now.
Oh, I love that. So my takeaway so far is that cyber is all in the realm of electronic communication. That's, part one of it. And then security, it's locking things away, lock things up. That's what I've heard so far.
Yeah, I think that's good. And it's sort of all the things that are associated with electronics, even down to the cables that you use. There's a risk that you take when you buy a cheap knockoff charging cable. And you as an adult have already navigated so many risks, and you've already weighed the cost and benefits of so many things in your life to get to the point that you are at now. I don't need to teach you how to suck eggs, but what I would like you to think about is that hackers have been known to implant bad things, and I'll try and avoid too much of the geek terminology, into even knockoff cords, cheap SIM cards, cheap USBs. So just bear in mind, when you're in the purchasing position and you've got the choice between, for example, buying a retail Apple product that will charge your phone or whatnot, vice the cheap version, just consider where it's manufactured, whether it comes with warranties, and what happens if it permanently damages your phone. That's one thing. It's a more physical problem. But what if all the time it's on your phone, it's recording calls and sending them somewhere else? I know that's a little bit spy versus spy, but it's certainly happened.
I love spy books, spy films. I'm an addict in that regard. But this is a new revelation for me, that when we're talking about cybersecurity, we're not just talking about being linked up to the internet. We're also looking at our hardware as well. Yes. So cybersecurity starts really from the purchase of the hardware that we're using, not even being connected to the internet. So that's already a whole new domain for me and my business to explore. So thank you so much.
And your software.
And my software. There's so many parts. So electronic communications, software, and the hardware. The three things to be thinking about when we're talking about cybersecurity. Great.
Yes.
Now, why is this important for businesses? Why think about it?
Well, yeah, good question. Why? So let's say, for example, there's an emergency and I need to get from point A to point B. And outside the place where I'm standing, there's a vehicle, its doors are missing, but the engine's running, so I know it's working. It's got no seat belts. I have no idea about the service history, but it's an emergency. So I need to get to point B. So I'm going to use that vehicle and I'm going to get there. Now, if I can make that a COVID example, your business suddenly couldn't work as it used to in a physical connectivity way. You couldn't physically go to your office every day anymore. So you used a tool in an emergency. For example, video conferencing. You went, okay, don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to use Zoom because I've heard of it. Great, I'm on. And it's got you from point A to point B. It got you from a crisis wherever people started locking themselves down 4 to 6 weeks ago, and it's got you to this point in time where you're listening to this video. And what I'm asking, requesting, possibly begging businesses.
Or demanding.
Well, I've got no rank anymore. Can't order people.
Damn.
Is please pause and think now. Your amygdala is no longer, flooded. You're no longer offline and working on a reptile brain. You've had time for your frontal lobe to go back online and for you to make strategic, reasoned decisions. And what I'm asking for you to decide is what I'm doing, are the tools I'm using that I didn't know 6 weeks ago, the kind of tools that I can turn around to a client who asks the question, or who could ask the question, are they just keeping my information safe? And that's a burden on us as individual practitioners. Really, no one can discharge it for you. You could employ someone to come and assess your risk and give you systems. But at the end of the day, every time you log in, every time you hook up to the internet, however you do it, are you putting your client's data at risk? Because we owe duties to the court. We have legal professional conduct rules, and that's not dissimilar to other professional bodies, for example, accountants and so forth. Can we really discharge them? So two of the duties that come to mind, confidentiality. We have a duty to keep confidentiality to our client. And competence. We have a duty of competence in our tools. That's an ethical responsibility. Yes. If I don't understand my tool, am I competent? And if I don't understand it enough to know that it is a confidential, for example, conversation via a video link, have I actually performed my job professionally?
Yes. And this also applies beyond even law firms and accounting firms. This can be, I'm a high performance coach. So right now I don't have any statutory duties. I don't have any duty to the court, but it's still critical that when I'm working with my engineering client who is creating some amazing technology, that I keep that confidential and that's not hacked, because, as their high performance coach, they're critical aspects of the business that I'm being given. So I have a duty to really keep that protected. Otherwise, we might lose millions of dollars if that information is taken away.
Yeah, and I like the analogy of, if you approach this street, you're the thief, and you're looking at all of these beautiful, delicious houses as, opportunities for you to go in and take a laptop. And the first house has a lock and an alarm, so you walk to the next house, you keep trying until you find the beautiful house, the front door's open, the back door's open, the music's so loud they can't possibly hear you. You whip in and you whip out and you take the laptop. So if I am able to find that door, and let's use your engineering client as an example, let's say he has 5 professionals who all look after him in different fields and facets. If the Rugare door is the one that's got the open front door and the music blazing, from a cyber perspective, sorry, I'm coming to you.
Oh, that's horrible.
Sorry.
I'm on edge right now.
That's where I want you. Back out of the rational brain. I want urgent decision making.
Fear.
Now, can I sell you that circuit set of steak knives?
I now need to have some of my rooibos tea to deal with the fear that just showed up.
I met you with my rooibos tea. Although I was told by one of the commanding officers I had, or officers commanding, he was originally from South Africa. He said, no, you can't say rooibos. You have to say rooibos. And I can't even say how he said it. It was like something died in his throat as he said it. So I apologize to all of the growers of this beautiful leaf that I probably say it wrong.
And me too. Thank you. What EJ said, I also apologize for butchering the name. But what are some practical tips then you can provide us in the business community to deal with the threat of our confidential information, the data? How do we be safe? And is it affordable to do that? Because when I think about cybersecurity, I think I'm going to have to spend like $10,000, $20,000. That's where my brain goes to. So then it goes into too hard basket, deal with that later. Deal with that perhaps when I'm a medium-sized business. Right now, I'm a small business. That it doesn't matter. I'm okay. What do you have to say about that?
So I have a lot to say about that. How long have you got? You're going to be like, time out, please stop. It's not a one-way conversation.
Stop!
So I'm going to start with the innocent small business who says, well, they can't possibly be after me. And all I'll say about that is bear in mind, you will know someone who has been rung by the fake tax office to be told there's a fake policeman outside who's about to arrest them if they don't pay money, and they've handed over that money. And those were individuals, usually elderly people, because they've been rung at home on a landline. So no business is too small. And they also know the larger the business, the better the cybersecurity. So again, going for my lovely, delicious street of locked doors, very, very easy targets. So the good news is I'm about to give you some absolutely no cost, easy tips that you will implement, I hope, within the next 24 hours. And this is going to take you up from wherever you are to a good top 15% of people in your position.
Really? Great. What are those tips?
It's that easy.
It's like candy.
One of the things that's useful, and you can go and pay for an audit for this, but really if you take a blank piece of paper and just write down right now every asset that you own that is of an electronic nature or a cyber nature, just even writing down roughly how old it is. And I would include in that, for example, the software, last time you bought a virus thing, and question mark whether it's ever been updated. So one of the first things is each piece of unpatched or unupdated software is a vulnerability, and it's nothing, really no effort to go into your systems administrator or whatever the term is on your particular device and just say check for update. And there's an update there that needs doing, please do it. One of the things that caused me grief is to see someone's phone with that little red thing saying software update, and they don't do it. The reason they bring out those updates is not to frustrate you and make your phone go slower for a while or whatever else. It's not to run down your battery life. It is because someone has reported a bug and they've fixed it. And that's why there's a patch. So do your updates. And that's for all of your devices and all of your software, practice management software, whatever. 2, please, this is not about recycling. Do not recycle your passwords. Please go ahead and reduce, reuse, recycle in your real life with your garbage, but do not reuse your passwords. This is not going to help anyone except the ecstatic cyber criminal that discovers, to their glee, the one brute force attack they've had into that one first password was the same for all your devices. Like, that's just Christmas for a cyber criminal because they've got them all in one hit. So if that is sounding like you, and I have every sympathy for not remembering passwords, we'll get to that in a sec. Change them all. Just don't repeat them. So some of the poor victims who I represent had repeated passwords because it's a human thing to do. But it's just an invitation for them. Once they've found one, they've got you in all of them. So that's one for passwords. The other part of passwords is, and I know this is going to elicit groans, but have at least 12 digits long. And
just fulfilling your expectation.
I thought it'd be groans. Audience, Rugare, please.
Oops.
That's okay. I'm sure there was a symphony of groans at that point. On the upside, so I'm sitting in my office now and Rugare says, right, EJ, I want a password right now. So I'm going to give you one right now, but you're not going to use this exact one because clearly everyone listening knows it. I can see a rose. So the first word is capital R-O-S-E. And then I can see a hand, and it's that thing behind you, there's a hand. So then that's capital H-A-N-D. And then looking over here, I can see a file. So there's capital R rose, capital H hand, capital F file, and the time is in military time, 16. So it was 16:30. So I'm going to say 16. And then I'm going to put a full stop. I've now got an amazing password that makes no sense. It's not a sentence. It's not the name of your pet. It's not the name of your parent, or it's not Manchester United. It's really quite a good password. Now, the next question I get is, well, how am I supposed to remember that? Like, I'm, X years old, and now you're telling me I have to have a new password for all my devices. This is impossible. Number one, nothing's impossible. Number two, if you have a device like an iPhone, and
I'm
not meaning to be like something.
That's the hour stuck on. It's like give them all to you. That's what I heard.
Send me all your passwords, especially your bank ones. No. So if you go into notes, which is, I should show you, I suppose. So here you can see this one called notes. We're all pretty familiar with it. And did we know that I can create a new note, and in that new note, I can lock it. So here we are. I've got a new note, and I'll just add my fancy password, and then I'm going to press, it's hard to do this backwards, I've got to tell you. I've pressed that little up arrow thing,
I see it, yes.
And then you see lock note.
Okay.
So now my password is protected by both the locked note password, and of course my phone has either fingerprint or a 6-digit number to get into it. So there's 2 layers of security. I don't back up to the cloud, only because the cloud gives people more time to think, but I'm not wholly against software that people purchase to save them. So anyway, so that one, if I lose the phone, that's the next question I get asked, I can wipe it remotely. And that's a nice tip to have for all your devices, is can you wipe it remotely? So that's passwords. And I will let you say something.
Can I ask a question about passwords? Because you could tell that I was like, my brain really wanted to ask another question, because you're saying that, as you said, any device is a risk in essence. So any device, all the hardware we buy. Why in your view and your expertise are you saying that using notes on a phone is okay?
Because I've walked into people's offices and found all these Post-it notes.
I see.
On the machine.
So it's the next level.
It's human factors, okay? Human factors are, and certainly in the military, we had a protocol where we had to regularly change our passwords, and we didn't get a choice. You couldn't log on unless you changed passwords. So that was extremely hard when you worked in the equivalent of a vault. So you couldn't take any kind of electronic device in or out. So I couldn't use that. It's a luxury to be able to use the phone. Yes. So you actually had to create a memorable password, and there's a way for doing that. But generally, we use our memories in ways that are good for hackers too. So if they've done a little bit of deep dive into you, or social engineering as it's called, they'll know from your Facebook the name of your partner, the date you were born, the date, all these significant dates in your life. They've got a really good guess at a memorable password for you. So I think it's better to have a non-memorable one. And in terms of, yes, that device is vulnerable. If I lose it, it has all my passwords. I'm going to be doing a lot of resetting, but I also know I can wipe that device remotely. So no one's actually going to get those passwords.
Fantastic.
And yeah, the whole sticky note on the computer thing, just no.
No, just no. The computer says no. No. Clear. So far we've learned a lot. So number 1 is, I can't remember your number 1.
Yeah, no, I think number 1, I talked about just patching and updates. Simple.
Yes, patching updates. Critical to patch your updates. Yep. And number 2 is?
Having a 12 length. Oh, first of all, don't recycle passwords. This isn't about environmental protection.
Yes.
So no reusing, no recycling. You will have a discrete password for everything, even the most innocuous app on your phone, because if that's the easiest door, but they open that door, they've got the key to every other door.
Right.
Problem.
And if it gives us a groan, then the better. We know that we're succeeding if we're going, ugh.
Which is why I'm going to lead to a third groan for you.
Please.
Are you ready? Multi-factor authentication, which is a horrible word, as is two-factor authentication. All it means is another password. Q groan. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, groan received. So I want you to imagine that the extra, 15 to 30 seconds it takes you to enter the second password is an inconvenience. Now I want you to think of the happy hacker who knows you don't have multi-factor authentication, who knows that as soon as he brute forces that first password, he's in, or she's in, or they're in. Now they find out, oh no, they listened to that amazing webinar Rugare, and now they've got multi-factor. This is, oh no, and you've just broken a cyber criminal's heart, because he could spend another 12 months In fact, if your second password is on your device, which is often the case, the Google Authenticator or whatever it is, they need to actually take your device. They need to image the device or own that device. So it's, again, a little groan for us, but a huge heartbreak for them.
Yes. So we know how to break a happy hacker's heart.
Yes. Break their heart. Smash them.
That's the whole game. So cybersecurity is all about breaking the heart of a happy hacker.
Yes. So we're the Pac-Man.
Yes.
And they're the little ghost, and we're going to just eat them up.
Perfect. That's very, very powerful. What kind of results have your clients experienced by them implementing these tools in their business?
So this is the occupational health and safety version of the world. And it used to be very hard pre-regulation and enforcement to prove the return on investment by a company on the accidents that didn't occur. So you could have a data of how many people hurt themselves, but very little data on who would, but for the new tools and preventive measures you've put in, had an accident. So instead, I suppose not all silence is good silence. And I'm going to just refer to the ANU breach that occurred last year. So they'd had a breach earlier, the year before, and in that breach they went, oh, there's some pieces missing in our cybersecurity system, so we're going to put some system in so that we can be better at it. And they did that, and then they had a second breach last year, which just seems so unlucky, and people went, well, what's the point of them putting it in? Well, the point was that if they hadn't had the first breach and implemented those systems, that second breach would have remained undetected to this point in time and probably beyond. And that was about 9 years worth of records that were breached. So it's not having that sense of, I've had so many people emphatically tell me that they have no problem with cybersecurity, that everything's fine. And then when they get breached and they ring me and they're mortified, I can't express enough that not knowing is not good enough. You actually need assurance. And one of the things that I've spoken to about people who have gone through an audit with me is, here is a list of questions. If you actually even have an IT team, ask them, do you have this? Do you have that? Are you checking this for me? What are you actually doing for me? So you're the one paying the bills if you have an IT team. If they're very rarely, your IT team are very rarely cybersecurity people. In fact, those are almost conflicting roles. The IT person wants to keep it working at all costs. The cybersecurity person might slow it down to give you better security. So that
sounds like my partner and I. I'm like the one who's wanting to make everything work with velocity, and then my partner is like, no, you need to talk to AJ. The way we're doing da 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 da. I'm like, oh, that's going to slow everything down. That's inefficient.
This is absolutely, again, your choice. In your business, in your law firm, whatever your profession is, you're alone entitled to make the risk management that you choose. But what I suspect we're tending towards, just as GDPR and NDB schemes have come in for data breaches of privacy, I think that we're going to become more and more questioning of companies that had insufficient or no actual knowledge of how they were keeping things secure. And, you know, you're going to get clients coming in and saying, look, before I tell you my secret, I want to know how you're going to keep it secret. I've already seen that. And that's actually been a really positive result of people who've come through and put in some cybersecurity system, is they now have this knowledge, and they go out to all of their third party and nth party contractors, which again, they might be the loose door in the whole street, and say, well, if you want this contract with me, you're going to need to show me how you're meeting these risks.
Right. And even just inside of recording this business summit with you, you had a conversation with our team, my team, about security, like how we're going to record this. You made some recommendations. It was really good. So you were so authentic, and you were a demonstration of the rigor you actually bring to cybersecurity. And, you know, even after this, I know that you're going to be working with my company in doing an audit of our cybersecurity, which is kind of what you were also pointing to. It's not good enough not knowing, but it's going to be critical as a business owner to have regular audits on our cybersecurity in any case. So it's not just we do it once and forget about it. It must be a culture of keeping things secure. So turning our minds to it and actually finding out. Not knowing is not good enough. That's one of my major takeaways from today.
Yeah, thank you. The head in the sand technique does work sometimes for your stress levels, but it won't work for any insurance policy. Just the same way we wouldn't dream, or not many of us would dream of owning a modern vehicle and not taking it to a suitable service station and servicing place that has all the correct equipment. Why do we think we can purchase a laptop that has more computing power than the computers that sent the first men to the moon, and not look at how we service/treat it? These things are capable of just about anything you can imagine. And one more tiny takeaway for the people now working from home. If you've been working home all this time with your Google, your Alexa, your Siri, you need to really think about that. If you're dealing with someone else's confidential data, at the very least, you need to do it in another room, but I would recommend disabling it until you're no longer working from home.
Like very, very clear. I think everybody needs to actually have a conversation with you, because there are many things to take into consideration, particularly the new world order from working at home. Now, EJ, unfortunately, we've run out of time. That was my beautiful chimes to let me know that we may be over talking, because that's one of my tendencies. Yes. But is there any last gift you'd like to give us?
Okay, so you've already referred to the conversation I had with one of your beautiful employees, which is video conferencing. Yes. And I'm just going to say it. I do not love Zoom, and that's not a COVID response. It's a response from breaches they've had up to 2 years ago and vulnerabilities that they're trying very hard to address right now. If you must use Zoom, please do it as Rugare did. Round of applause. Means you have a unique identifier for each meeting. You're not handing over your individual Zoom ID to all and sundry, and you're going to have a password for each meeting. You're going to allow guests in one by one, so that if the new guest arrives out of your 20, but you don't know number 21, you're going to challenge them, because it just takes them dropping a little piece of malware into the chat. And everyone thinks, well, this is a trusted meeting, I'll just click on that. And then next thing, everyone in that meeting walks away with a virus or worse. So what would I say are my preferences? Very quickly, I like FaceTime if you have iPads and iPhones and all that sort of thing. If not, I'm already subscribed to Office 365, so I use MS Teams. And there's also an open source, end-to-end encrypted, free Zoom equivalent, which hasn't spent money on advertising as well as Zoom, but it's spent that money on security, and it's called Jitsi, Jitsi, and it's worth a play with, just to see if you can cope, because you're trading off for the convenience of Zoom. The analogy I started with at the beginning, which is that fast car that'll get you from A to B with no doors and no service history. You've got time now. Have a play with something safer. And for all the educational and non-profit organizations, Microsoft Teams is no charge.
Fantastic. That's very powerful and great advice. Thank you very much, EJ. How can people get in communication with you?
Well, they can come to you, obviously. Or they can, I think maybe I've got in the background here, by complete coincidence,
shock horror. How did that happen?
I think of my Twitter handle, and we're also on Instagram, and we're on Facebook, and we're on 0390709898. It's business as usual, because you would expect that, because we are a cyber firm. Great. And the first 15 minutes, if you've just got a quick question about any of the things we've asked, there's no charge. I'm much happier helping you from being one of my clients who's post-breach. That's not what I want.
I get it. Thank you so much for your generosity. And for everybody listening, EJ's contact details will be available as well in all the social media handles. And thank you so much, EJ. This was so informative. It was so much fun. And I just really appreciate using your superpowers to make a difference to all of us in the business community, particularly in this new world order.
Thank you.
You're welcome. for everybody listening to this business summit, thank you for your generous listening. My team and I are there for you as you navigate through these unprecedented times. If you are interested in having a conversation with me, feel free to email me at connect@rugaregomo.com. Thank you very much.